We run on next to nothing. Many times we're the only entity at an emergency that is the focus. If we have a missing person emergency, for instance, it's the focus of our skill set. But many times we're the only entity there that's not getting reimbursed through something. Everybody else is getting overtime, undertime, this, that, or whatever. Sometimes people will help us out. I remember, and this is how little we get. I remember going all the way upstate, and the police chief stopped us when we were leaving and let everybody fill up their cars with gas. That was huge.
Wow.
That was huge to everybody. I mean, if he called today, I would go right back up there because of that. And it was just so nice that somebody realized that, you are bearing a financial burden. I wrote down, there were some notes I wanted to ask you. I wanted you to talk a little about your love-hate affair with social media and the internet. And that falls under technology, which is the bane of your existence.
Well, we never used social media. Recently, we've had some younger members, and they've got the Facebook pages up and the Instagram, and somebody else got a Twitter account. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing. However, I'm not allowed to put our own posts in it. I'm the president of the organization. And that's as it should be, because I will mess it up. So I read it, I'll look at it. But if a post goes up, we have someone that does that, not me.
But you will sometimes say, I saw this on there. I didn't. Sometimes you'll say to me, this Facebook is the dumbest thing. I don't know why everybody's on this. And it's one of those things that can get you, and I mean anybody, so upset over just being over-informed about stuff that we don't even really want to know about, on a regular basis. I put a joke on there about getting a new belt because people were just posting these nuances of their life that I was thinking, are they being satirical, or they really think this is important and we need an update? And it's just got out of control. A
lot of the Facebook's just silly, but I will say I have several family members that live out of state, and if I didn't have the Facebook, it's just so nice. Even in that case, when I see silly little things, it's part of their everyday life, so then it makes it fun again.
Yeah, I just don't like it replacing picking up the phone or going to see somebody, because I remember I used to talk a lot more on the phone with people, and I thought those were better conversations, because with Facebook you see a picture of them doing something, and that's like a status check, It's like, okay, they're doing okay. Looks like they're having fun, versus talking to somebody.
Just to back up a little, it was an interesting search and rescue / Facebook story. We actually had one deployment last year where the officer who needed some search and rescue responders, he just couldn't remember the name of the team. And so he went to Facebook, and they called us from Facebook. Oh. And it was 1:30 in the morning, and the man was found. We found him alive, and he would have never lived till morning. The officers told us he was a veteran, PTSD. He had fallen on some hard times. So I can never trash Facebook again, because inadvertently it saved this man's life.
Yeah. I if there was ever a tally between life saved versus life lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. Well, it's like anything when it's used right. When it's used for the right reasons. And in search and rescue, there's a lot of people that are using it to prop themselves up before their time, I think. And they equate popularity on there with tangible skills in the field. And there's no relationship whatsoever between likes in any skill set, There's none. There's none.
No. But I think it all comes around, because there's the Facebook has been huge for like lost pets. There's a lost pets of Montgomery and Chester County, and it really gets the word out, and that's been helpful. And then a lot of the police departments have their own Facebook pages, and they'll get the word out, like if somebody drove off in a car or something like that. So I think that enough people disregard the nonsense and can focus. And sometimes you look at the nonsense and then that kind of goes viral because it is nonsense. So then more people know that somebody's kind of a goofball. So it kind of has that effect too sometimes.
Well, and that's part of the problem, I think, is that people don't filter their stuff. It's the consumer's responsible, just like eating good food or whatever, to filter out nonsense and not take everything you see as gossip because it's gospel because it's on the screen. When I've had people in from the media, they said that, it's the best time for journalism there's ever been, but we have to use it properly. Everybody has the ability to publish content now. Freedom of speech is at its best because we can say whatever, but it should be freedom of intelligent speech or freedom of responsible. There's a word missing in there.
Well, I think the other thing is the downside of all this social media is, we were talking about this, if you and I, a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, the suicides of these young people. When I was a kid in high school, if you had a bully, it was a face-to-face bully. And now the bullying, boom, in a second, everybody that knows you knows something that you didn't want them to know. And so this is very hurtful. And, we've had some of these young people try to kill themselves and successfully kill themselves over the social media, which is a double-edged sword.
And there was recently a girl that was convicted for driving somebody to harm themselves. And I kind of took the old school thing like, well, how can you drive somebody to do it? And he was going to hurt himself by staying in a car with the fumes. And he got out of the car, and I thought that was the end of the story. But then they have the text where she tells him, "Be a man, get back in." I'm like, that's not right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's too much. And it's like she doesn't. What concerns me is she doesn't seem to realize that she did something completely wrong. She assisted in somebody hurting themselves that wasn't necessary for any reason whatsoever. We've had people that have FaceTimed in their suicides, which is something I've seen happen a few times, and I hope it doesn't become a popular thing. They break up with a significant other, and they want them to see the result of it, and they FaceTime it in. And there was one that we were involved in with the photos and everything, and it was horrible. It was horrible to watch as a human being. I can't imagine how it was as a human being that was emotionally connected directly to that person. And in some ways, and I'm not saying it's all bad, but I'm saying in some ways, it's like anything. It's like a firearm. It's like a car. It's got to be used responsibly. And maybe there needs to be some social media driver's license or something that could be revoked. I
don't know. But you started talking about the financials, and people that we respond to and they talk to us later, they are so shocked that we're not getting paid, and they're so shocked that nobody's paying for any of the expenses involved. And you have much more equipment than we have, but our equipment is our dogs. And we've been on searches where a dog has come up injured at the search. And then you have your veterinary expenses. So the dogs are owned by and the responsibility of the handler, and then all those subsequent vet bills, that comes from the responding. We've had a dog injured on a search. That was in a chicken refinery, a chicken processing plant in Maryland. And then we had boots that were ruined when we did a landfill search. And so we've been very lucky that our replacement costs or our just to get whole have been less than they could be. Things could be much worse, but most of our expenses are to get us ready to go out and do it. Not as bad after the fact, but you're right. That one officer that covered your gas, we had one this past year Pennsylvania State Trooper, and he gave us a donation on our website, which was just so helpful. It was enough that it covered our expenses for the day.
Yeah, so, a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah, a little bit goes a long way. It's true.
And I just, it'd be nice, be so much nicer if we didn't have to worry about, tires on a vehicle or something like that, or just worry about little things that are taken for granted by other departments because they magically appear out of tax dollars. But when we go out, what we do is we reduce the costs of the local departments. We save them money. We save the township, the municipalities money. We save the taxpayers money every time we go out the door. We don't cost the taxpayers money ever.
Never.
It's just a saving because we pull people in who are getting paid, making overtime or whatever, so they can go back, protect your safety while we handle the missing person incident.
And that's true. And then, like you're talking about tires on your vehicles, the way that our unit is structured, we all use our personal vehicles, but the tires would be like our dog, like the wheels on our poor old dog. People say, what happens when they retire? Well, we've got one that's almost 15, and he was just yesterday getting some rehab. We're very fortunate. We live in an area where the veterinary care is phenomenal, and he's getting, he's an old guy, and he's been on a couple of very high-profile searches, and we do have low overhead, so money we get goes right to the dogs. The dogs for us. And I know that that's right. Like makes you crazy, but for us. Right. So it's what can we do to help the next dog get trained to do the job? But what do we owe the retired dog that, he's no good to anyone going forward, but we owe it to him. So donations we get they go towards helping, a retired, a worker. He did his job and he's a good boy.
But see, what drives me nuts is I see more and more people that are buying vests and slapping makeshift placards and stuff on dogs, service dogs.
Well, and they have these GoFundMe pages, which I know is a pet peeve of yours, and accurately, because every time somebody donates to an entity that's not the real deal, it takes away from someone who is. And every time somebody pretends they have a service dog, it takes away from another service dog. It's like parking in a handicap parking spot. You just don't do it.
Right. And it's, you're talking about people saying that not understanding about us getting paid. I find that when I tell people that we don't get paid, they look at me like I'm stupid. They look at me like I'm an idiot, and they lean in like they didn't hear me right. And I have
Is that
to say,
the only reason they look at you? Like
there's plenty of reasons, but that's the main one at that given point in time. But they'll say, "You don't get paid. You do this out of your pocket," and you nod your head, and they just look at you like you're just the dumbest thing that ever walked on the earth.
But there's so many good volunteers out there. Where we're located in many of the suburban areas, you have a few paid fire departments, a few paid employees in the fire departments, but a lot of volunteers, mostly volunteers. Your traffic police are mostly all volunteers. We have so many different facilities near us. They're just all volunteers. And so I believe there's a lot of volunteers in a lot of different ways, but for something like what we do as a first responder, people assume, sadly, incorrectly, that it's part of the infrastructure, that if you call 911 and you have a medical emergency, they come. If you have some kind of legal problem, law enforcement comes. But if you have a missing person, search and rescue will come. And really, we come if we can. We never say no, but it's definitely something that's not built into the infrastructure of our society.
Well, it's not unforeseeable that if things go in a certain direction that maybe somebody can't come.
If you had two, like we had a couple, we had 3 in 3 days just 2 weeks ago. or 3 weeks ago, it was like 3 deployments. And luckily it was 3 separate days. And I think you also said you had like boom, boom, boom. And it wears you out because we take off time from work because it's not our job. So we all have to shuffle things around, and you can't be in 2 places at once. So we do